increases the wind speed. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. So by Wednesday morning, so this time as we're talking tomorrow, we'll have a hurricane. Maybe even while we're talking on Good Morning Jacksonville tomorrow, we'll have a Category 1 storm. Then as we get to Thursday morning, a major hurricane. Quick developing, quickly strengthening because of just how warm the conditions are, the sea surface temperatures are in the Gulf of Mexico, and how conducive the conditions in the atmosphere are to strengthening as well. So a couple of ingredients there in the Gulf of Mexico. So this will be from tropical storm development to becoming a major hurricane. So we got tropical storm officially at 11, major hurricane if it happens as forecast around the 8 a.m. update. We're talking about less than 48 hours going from tropical storm to a major. And that's happened with storms very similar to storms like Beryl that we had earlier in the season, a different kind of storm, and then a Michael, which formed in very similar conditions we've had several years ago. So right now I want to zoom in to what landfall would look like. This would be Thursday nights, and this has been consistent. So this is run after run, even now that we have a fully named tropical storm. Not much has changed as far as computer model guidance is concerned. Still have this cone that includes over toward the east of towards Steinhatchee and then further west of the Appalachee Bay. But the Appalachee Bay has been kind of the focal point of a landfall here Thursday night between that 7 to 9 o'clock hours. Some computer models have it a little bit slower later, and some have it moving a little bit faster. But this is kind of that center spot, that average. Now, let's not get too caught up in that center line forecast, which is what the red line is. It is very likely that the eye wall could cross land, make landfall anywhere within this cone. So don't get too fixated on the center. A western track, much better for the First Coast and Southeast Georgia. An eastern track, well, we'll have some more intense conditions and intense impacts, which we're going to go over county by county here in just a few moments. I do want to show you Hurricane Watch for the best portion now of the Big Bend of Florida and the Gulf Coast of Florida through Tampa. We do have that Hurricane Watch, including now portions of Columbia County as well as Alachua and Marion counties as well, right along that I-75 corridor, which is where we do anticipate seeing the worst impacts. Much more to come, county by county, computer modeling as well in just a few moments. Keitha?
Thanks for that, Lou. We want to take a live look now. You can see here, gorgeous. So this is a live look in downtown Jacksonville right now. Skies are clear at this hour, but we all know, of course, that will likely change. It's expected to change over the next 48 hours as Helene draws near. You just heard Lou mention by Thursday morning, this is expected to turn into a major hurricane. And just within the past couple of hours, Governor Ron DeSantis spoke at the Florida Division of Emergency Management about storm preparedness. This comes just one day after he declared a state of emergency for 41 counties here in Florida. That number, by the way, has now grown to include 61 counties, including all counties right here in Northeast Florida.
We expect effects could reach significantly inland. We have requested a pre-fall emergency declaration from FEMA. We expect that to be approved very quickly. Here at the Emergency Operations Center, we are, of course, on full activation.
Again, you just heard there from Governor Ron DeSantis. According to the governor, much of the initial response is planned for the Big Bend and Panhandle regions of the state. Now, as we mentioned, we're waiting to hear from Mayor Donna Deegan. She is out there, we're told, right now at the podium. Let's see if we can listen in right now. She's addressing the city's response to the incoming storm. Let's listen in.
Storm now. I'm gonna leave it to Angie to give you the major weather update, but I will just tell you that in terms of the city of Jacksonville, you know, we are focused very heavily on a major wind event for us, as opposed to much of the other issues, and I'll let Angie get into more of that. So we're going to be looking heavily at increased tornadic activity, probably Thursday, mostly Thursday into Thursday evening. So in anticipation of that, I have signed an executive order declaring a local state of emergency starting at 12 p.m. today. As a reminder, this is a necessary step to initiate the local resources that we need to protect the public during the storm. So that state of emergency for us will start at noon. We'll brief the council at 3 p.m. On that issue. Also, Governor DeSantis this morning has added us to the order declaring a state of emergency on the state level. So we're covered both ways there. The Duval County Emergency Operations Center is partially activated right now. It will be fully activated at 8 p.m. tonight. And our team will also be providing a briefing to the City Council. I said that at 3 p.m. At the conclusion of the special council meeting, they're going to adjourn and immediately convene their regular meeting. Obviously, tonight is budget night, so a big night for a lot of things, but we wanted to make sure we got this done early. All City of Jacksonville offices are going to be closed on Thursday during the worst parts of the storm. We anticipate that we'll be able to bring everybody back on Friday, but obviously we're going to watch the trajectory of the storm and how long it takes to get to us, and that may have to be adjusted, but that's our plan at the moment. We're coordinating with all of our constitutional offices on their plans for Thursday and Friday. Right now, their plans, as far as we know, are the same as ours, but we'll keep monitoring that as well. Duval County schools will be closed on Thursday and Friday. And while you'll see the weather clearing up on Friday, we should see the wind reducing on Friday morning and start to clear out pretty rapidly. But I want you to keep in mind the reason that schools are closed both Thursday and Friday is because 4 of our 5 shelters that we're opening are schools. And it will take them time to clean up and to close down those shelters. That's why the schools have to be closed both Thursday and Friday. So if you are living in a trailer, an older home, or a low-lying area, we want you to really pay particular attention to where these shelters are. They're going to open as of 4 p.m. tomorrow. Atlantic Coast High School, that's on Skinner Dairy Parkway, that's going to be open for special medical needs and will be pet-friendly. Chaffee Trail Elementary on Caruso Way, that will be open as well for the general population. The Legend Center on Sutel Drive, that will be open for special medical needs and pet-friendly and general population, so everybody. The Landmark Middle School on Kernan Boulevard will open for general population to be pet-friendly, and La Villa School of the Arts, open for the general population. JTA is going to be providing free transportation to those shelters if anybody needs it. Right now, they're making plans to secure the Mayport Ferry. No update at this point, at least from us, on exactly when the ferry will stop operations, but I'm sure JTA will be happy to give us an update on that if you would like it. The airport is monitoring the storm, and currently there are no plans to close it. From my understanding, even though we are anticipating some tropical storm force winds and some gusts that could get up to be concerning, the airport cannot physically close unless every airline cancels flights. And we don't know that at this point. Normally, the airlines will wait till later, so the airport will close if all the airlines close. Otherwise, they will remain open. Our public works team is taking care of trees, clearing drains, securing loose items in advance of the storm. The good news is they've been doing a lot of that for weeks, ever since we had this really heavy rain. Honestly, that is our biggest concern during this storm, is that we have such saturated ground. We're worried about trees falling over because we're going to have a lot of wind for a relatively short period of time, but still, that could cause us some problems with the saturated ground. And there will be some, the regular suspects that always flood may be an issue for some flooding. But beyond that, we're not expecting a crazy flooding scenario. We'll be keeping solid waste pickup on schedule on Thursday and Friday, as long as it is safe to do so. And if there are any homes that are missed on those days, pickup will happen on Saturday. Once again, I want to encourage everyone to please, if you have an issue, call 630-CITY. We will have that staffed 24/7, and we'll be making sure that we're addressing issues as quickly as we possibly can, as we have been doing. Please make sure you go to jaxready.com for updates. That's really a wonderful resource, and everybody should go and make sure you're taking a look at that. I am going to turn it over to the National Weather Service, for Angie, to give us an update on the weather at the moment, and then I'll come back for any questions you might have, okay?
Hey, good afternoon. My name's Angie Agnetti, meteorologist with the National Weather Service office here in Jacksonville, deployed, working with the Duval County Emergency Preparedness Division for now Tropical Storm Helene. So as of 11 a.m. this morning, the Hurricane Center has upgraded to Tropical Storm Helene. The storm itself is still just a little east of the Yucatan Peninsula near Mexico. Over the next 24 hours, the system's going to drift northward, and as it enters into the southern Gulf of Mexico, intensification to hurricane strength is expected. So sometime tomorrow, we're expecting Hurricane Helene. As the system continues to track northeastward across the Gulf of Mexico, Wednesday night into Thursday, it's expected to accelerate its forward motion, but also intensify to major hurricane strength as it approaches the Big Bend of Florida, Florida Big Bend area, Appalachia Bay. Landfall is expected sometime Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening. Now, for the first coast, even though the storm track and landfall is expected to be west of our location, there is expected to be a large wind field around Helene, which for our area, the Jax metro area, we are preparing for tropical storm force winds. These are winds that are sustained of 40 miles an hour or more. The onset time frame of those sustained winds, the peak of the storm for our local area, looks to be Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening. This is a fast-moving system, and so that's kind of the peak period of these stronger winds. By Friday morning, the center of the storm will be inland and north, and we should see a decrease below tropical storm strength by Friday morning come sunrise. Now, before those winds arrive, those sustained tropical storm force winds Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, we have pretty good conditions today and Wednesday to mitigate and prepare the best we can for tropical storm conditions here. By Wednesday night is when we're going to expect those first outer rain bands to creep their way south to north across us. Within those rain bands, as the mayor had mentioned, there's an elevated tornado risk as these bands have embedded tornado potential in them coming from the Atlantic and moving inland. So this is a great time to make sure we have multiple sources of getting tornado warnings, warning notification information, because we do anticipate some tornado warnings possibly being needed through today, Thursday, as those bands come across. The rainfall footprint for the metro area, generally looking like 3 to 6 inches, with those 6 inches amounts being in higher, locally higher bands that set up. But as we know, a lot of our area is already saturated from heavy rainfall that occurred earlier in the month. So even though 3 to 6 inches might not sound like a lot, it can certainly exacerbate locations that have already experienced flooding earlier in the month. We still have a lot of retention ponds, drainage ditches that are elevated. So any rainfall on top of that could certainly bring a flooding threat. And finally, storm surge footprint. Not expected to be a major player, especially for coastal locations. Generally inundation up to 3 feet. So our dune line is very well structured, so really not looking for an immediate concern on the Duval County coast southward for storm surge. But farther up on the Nassau County coast, getting up in southeast Georgia, that's where we could see some inundation potential up to 4 feet. For the St. Johns River Basin, we do have elevated tides right now, elevated astronomical tides. They're running about up to 1.5 feet above normal levels right now. If we put a storm surge of 1 to 2 feet on top of that, then within the St. Johns River Basin itself, we could see up near 3 feet of inundation. And again, this would be impacting those normally prone locations, especially with like a southerly wind component on the river, really targeting areas in San Marco, the Hogan's Creek drainage, right along the north bank, over into Riverside and the San Marco area, Riverside and Ortega specifically, for up to that 3 feet of storm surge inundation. The peak of that storm surge would be Thursday evening with the tide cycle, with the high tide. Thank you.
Okay, so anybody have questions? I want to say, and I know Angie mentioned this earlier, so I want to make sure people understand this is not an Irma situation we're looking at. Okay, in terms of that, we could see some isolated flooding, but we're not looking at a scenario where, or what was Irma? You said 4 or 5 feet,
Yes.
5 feet clear.
4 to 5.
We're not looking at anything like that. So I don't want people to worry about that, but I do want you to be prepared. We may have to close some streets with isolated flooding. And certainly I want everybody to be on the lookout in terms of possible trees coming down, given the saturation of the ground and the winds. Any questions?
Mayor, with this being largely a wind event, do you anticipate any of the bridges needing to be closed?
I will let JSO handle that one.
The bridge monitoring the bridges is something we're very well versed at, and we can do that remotely. So we generally will monitor the bridges with teams set up at the bases of the bridges, looking for sustained winds of 40 miles an hour or over for a minute, and shutting that bridge down when we have to, and then opening it back up. But as always, our intent is to get the bridges back open as soon as possible. So, thank you.
Mayor, as far as the wind situation, as you were mentioning, are there specific areas who should be a little more concerned than others? Should it be maybe more on the west side, since we're seeing that
I think
trend?
wide open areas, you're looking at, areas around the coast, along the river, big open areas, maybe up by the airport. That's where you're going to see, the biggest impact on those things, because that's where the wind will be heaviest effect.
Mayor, are crews already pumping water out of the retention ponds
Yes.
or rivers and whatnot back into over there, so that way it won't flood as much?
Yes, absolutely. That has been actually ongoing, but we have absolutely ramped up those efforts to make sure that we are in as good a position as we can possibly be. The good news about this, honestly, is that it's moving so fast, or will be moving fast by the time it gets to us, that it should move through pretty quickly. So we're hoping that rain impact will be minimized because of the speed of the storm.
Is there a level of seriousness? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go for it.
Is there a level of seriousness to how much flooding we should expect, because we did get some heavily saturated areas because of the rain these past few weeks?
Well, I'll let Angie correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we heard her say was that those areas that have been flooding, that are prone to flooding, are probably going to see some flooding. There could be isolated areas where that's, if we get up to 3 feet, where we could see some problems there. But that's why we want to make sure we're monitoring where we might need to close off some roads to make sure people aren't driving through standing water. But those are the areas, where they are. Where those areas that constantly flood will probably, because of the standing water we already have, be flooded again.
Mayor, on for the school closures, do you know on after-school activities, including high school football Friday, has been decisions made on whether those are or are not going to happen?
I'm going to let Dr. Bernier answer.
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the after-school activities on Wednesday, all after-school activities and athletics will be canceled except for our daycare options at our middle and elementaries. The news, press, and the community should know that Duval County had already planned in its schedule an early release day for Wednesday. So we are not releasing early based upon the storm, but we are releasing early. With that being said, we will allow our daycares to continue to operate through normal hours on Wednesday, but we will be encouraging parents, if they can, to come pick up their students so they can prepare for the storm. When it comes to Friday night, in order for an athletic event to occur, students must be in school, so we will not have competitions Friday night, and we will reschedule.
Can I ask Mayor too, on the JTA and the buses, so are those, at this point it's planned, they're still going to be running as usual, or is that something that they probably will have some service disruptions, just a matter of when and how?
Thank you, Mayor. As it relates to JTA services, our fixed route large bus operation will continue to operate. It'll all be contingent upon weather and road conditions. Based on weather and road conditions, we'll detour or suspend service. But our plan is to run the fixed route bus service from throughout the storm and then provide and support shelter trips as necessary, required by the city and the Emergency Operations Center.
And on the ferry, same thing, or is that something where?
Right now, our plan is both the Skyway and the ferry will not be operating on Thursday. So that is what we're planning at this juncture. We'll continue our regular service to Wednesday evening, and then at that point, we'll suspend service until Friday morning on the St. Johns River Ferry as well as the Skyway. Okay, thank you.
Anything else, guys?
Silly question, Mayor, but is JEA expecting any power outages?
Well, that is a silly question, but I will say that I expect that JEA is going to be extraordinarily busy over this period of time because of all the wind. But I'll let Vicki come up and tell you they're very prepared. They've got extra crews coming in, and she can tell you more about that.
Thank you, Mayor. JEA has already got our facilities tied down and ready to go. With a wind event like this, we have brought in 50 additional crews to supplement our 24 crews. They will arrive tomorrow, so we will have 400 line workers ready to go for downed trees. Tornadic activity would be a problem. So I want people to also understand that when a tree goes down, it can take down electric lines. When the roots come up, it can disrupt your water service to your house, both what you own and JEA's water and sewer lines. So we are prepared for that as well.
Will JEA send power crews to other places outside of Duval?
first we take care of here and all the problems we have here, but we stand ready to produce and send mutual aid if needed and if we're capable.
And I believe we also have a couple of, is it our ERAT teams that are going to go out to, are they going to Apalachicola or wherever they're needed?
We've got a couple crews going to Tallahassee, a couple crews going to Swanee Valley.
Did you hear that? So we've got a couple crews going to Tallahassee, a couple going to Swanee Valley to help out with where things are going to be most impacted. I just want to say again, you know, once again, I mean, our hearts go out to the places that are going to be most impacted by what, by all accounts, is going to be at least a Category 3 storm by the time it hits the Big Bend. We're close to that. But I don't want anybody to take this storm lightly, because I do think the wind could cause us quite a bit of problems. And I'm hoping that what people will do is, even though that today and tomorrow are going to be nice days, on Thursday, once you have the opportunity to do so, you know, if you don't need to be out and about on the streets, you know, hunker down and just wait on this wind event to go by, and then hopefully by Friday morning, we're looking at a much better day. So, anybody else with questions? Okay, we will be back at 6:05 for another briefing, and obviously we'll have more information by then, but certainly feel free to reach out to Phil Perry in my office if you have any other questions. Thanks, guys.
You just heard there from Mayor Donna Deegan and other city officials regarding Tropical Storm Helene. Now Tropical Storm expected to become a major hurricane